Hello and welcome back to Blue Tinted Glasses. It is Wednesday, which means it's time for Fox's Den, and this will be a nice one, stress-free. It's been a while, lads, since we had a nice stress-free show on a Wednesday. However, Leicester City, of course, have just won their first game with Ruud van Nistelrooy in charge. Let's go around the houses before we start about the game. And Neil, mate, how are you doing today?
Unbelievable. How could you not be? A veil has been lifted. A new era has begun. Best possible way to start. And we can finally look forward to actually supporting our team again and feeling excited. I'm doing great.
Absolutely, mate. Good to hear. I think we're all absolutely buzzing, but let's find out. Ragsy, mate, I think me and you have got some words to have with each other after a conversation we had last night, but we'll get on to that. Let's start. How are you doing, mate?
I'm feeling great, boys. We're back. What can I say? It's just it's liberating, and we finally get to talk about tactical analysis and a philosophy. I used to pray for times like these, man, and it's just like it's just been like you get 12 years a slave. This is 12 games of just like absolute boredom, like peril and stuff. But finally, our season starts, and can't wait to talk about it.
Brilliant, Josh, mate. How's it going? Were you at the game yesterday? And if so, how was it, mate?
No, it was good, yeah. The first one at home for seems like ages, but I think Ragsy summed it up perfectly just then. So all good, lads, and good to be back on here discussing a win for once.
100%. Right. Where do we start? Right. Anil, let me start with you, mate. Where do you want to start? You tell me, mate. Where do you want to start with the game yesterday?
There's so much to talk about. I'm going to do a tactics show tomorrow to go through it, but I think there was it was just amazing to have a different manager. Do you know what I'll start with, actually? Might sound a bit weird. It was his interview after the game. It might sound strange, but you could just tell, oh my God, this is what a Premier League manager looks and sounds like, right? And, that might sound a bit sort of depressing, but it's sort of like, we haven't been in a Premier League last season. And the season before that, Brendan Rodgers he clearly had dialed it in, right? By the end, he was just saying stuff that didn't make sense. He was being disillusioned with what the truth is. It was amazing. So what I really liked about it is he talks about the positives, but I think he was also quite... he admitted the mistakes. Like, there was a question where they asked him, like, how many shots do you think you gave away in that game? And he goes, it was a lot, probably like 25. And they went 31. And his facial reaction was like, oh, got work to do tomorrow then. But he recognized it, right? And some of the things. So I think it was great. Like, he was so proactive with the substitutes. He made a lot of tactical tweaks. I'll let the others talk, but for me, it was refreshing. And I think the reason why we've got hope is, as crazy as this sounds, because let's be real, right? West Ham could have won that game, right? They made a lot of chances, right? But the thing is Ruud, after 2 training sessions, he's looked at some mistakes that Cooper's been making all season long, and he's actually tried to fix them, and those fixes worked. And sometimes the fixes will work, sometimes they won't. But Cooper just kept making the same mistake over and over. And you can see that Van Nistelrooy already is just levels above. So thank God, that's what I can say.
Josh, mate, what did you make to it? What's your verdict on Ruud van Nistelrooy's first game? I mean, it was I nearly said perfect. It wasn't perfect. It would have been if we kept a clean sheet. Obviously, we ruined that at the end. But yeah, what did you make to it overall, mate?
Yeah, I think it's going to be hard to keep a clean sheet. But no, I thought it was perfect. It was as best it could have gone, really. I think, we've all said it multiple times, he's had 1 to 2 training sessions at most, and to put that performance in. I know, to be fair, like I said, it only had a few sessions, but you could already try and see the way he's trying to play, which is the most promising thing for me. And then obviously to get the 3 points alongside it is good, because going into yesterday, I said, look, if Leicester can get a point, but there's a sign of progression, there's a sign of how we're going to play, I'd be happy with that. But to go out there, put that performance in, yes, we could have lost it, but we also could have scored a few more. We were creating chances, loads of people involved. Daka scored, which is good for his confidence. I just think it lifts the whole group, it lifts us, lifts the fan base, and I think, don't think it could have gone much better.
Yeah, Zaid says Ruud is actually the one who is refreshing, not the other idiot. Ragsy, I kind of used that quite a lot this season. Oh, people are just happy that the manager's refreshing in his interviews and he's honest, blah, blah, blah. But how nice was it, mate, to see Ruud on the touchline, again, like Anil said, being proactive, and also, again, his comments after the game as well, talking like he actually knows what he's doing.
I mean, I feel like we've just, I think from the start of the season, I won't try and mention Cooper too much because we've moved on now. But it's just maybe we've just sort of been deprived of what a competent manager can actually do. Because, I mean, the first sort of like move that we did in our sort of patterns of play with our build up down the left hand side, and we just exploited West Ham's high line. Vardy just couldn't believe his luck, and he had all the time in the world, and it was a cool, calm finish. And you're thinking, oh, this is easy. This is a piece of piss. What's our moaning about? Thinking we had a lack of quality in the squad. Then you saw, like, well, with West Ham, they were sort of pushing, like, they did have a good press. They do have a lot of quality in their team. And they created a lot of chances, especially down the flanks and stuff. And then I think you saw essentially what you saw against Brentford, in that, you know, as soon as we scored the goal, we didn't really know how to deal with it. We kind of sat in, was very passive and not really engaged in the press, not aggressive enough. And, you know, I just think, like, the longer it was going to keep going on like that in the second half, then we're just going to sort of land ourselves in trouble at the end of the day. But he must have done something at half time in terms of the tactical tweaks, shifting Casey over to the left-hand side and just being a compact block and moving at it in unison. It just looked far more organised. Even if they tried moving down the flanks, we sort of pressed in like a diagonal, compact sort of 4-4-2, what we were going with. And then slowly but surely in the second half, we started building into the game. And then we were ruthless on the counter press and the counter attack and stuff. Many good performances. Bilal stood out for me. Like, his passing array is just outstanding.
Well, I'm gonna interrupt you because we're gonna get on to him soon. Sorry, just looking through some of the comments here. Kalibo says not getting carried away just yet, but hey, a winning style is a winning style. I mean, let's talk about that, Anil, because, you know, like all football fans, it's not just us, it's not just exclusive to us, but we are guilty of it as Leicester fans. We do like to get carried away. You know, we all think Soumare is Yaya Toure. We all think Patson Daka is Ruud van Nistelrooy. And we think Leicester City are back, and who knows what could happen. But let's be honest, mate, there is, like you alluded to at the start, there is a lot of work to be done. And if we play like that, like we did yesterday against Brighton, we're probably going to get cooked.
Yeah, 100% agreed. That's the thing I've got to say. We actually conceded more shots in that game than any game under Steve Cooper. So that's the thing that needs a lot of work. I was watching the game back. So it's like my pro tip is I just put it on like 3x speed and watch it again in the evening so you can process it much faster. And I think in general, we did all right. But actually the thing that stood out to me where I think we've got to improve is that when we were trying to play it out from the back, we did a quite poor job of it. Some people that are a bit guilty. James Justin was pretty bad at it actually yesterday. Some other players, Christensen was a lot better at doing it than normal. And Buonanotte, I think, also had a bit of an off day when they were trying to get him through the lines. And so that meant that West Ham's press, they kept getting the ball off us. So we lost possession. And then what Ruud did is he basically had like a really compact 4-4-2 block, which made us defensively more stable. But what it meant is there was like a large ring, like the horseshoe around the box, right? So West Ham could keep going around from one side to the other. So they had a lot of possession and they were getting chances to cross it. So yeah, what we've got to work on is still got to get these shots down overall. But I think we can do it by being a bit braver in possession and passing out of trouble, because when it worked, it was good. But that's definitely something we've got to look at, is like maintaining a bit more control of the ball so that we're not doing it. Because you're right, Brighton are a really, really good team. Like, you know what, they're in a Champions League places or something right now. I think they beat Man City, didn't they? They beat Spurs from being 2 down. They got really good attacking players. They are going to exploit us with a press as well. So we're going to have to watch out for that. But I think it is okay for people to get carried away, because you know what, despite the fact that we gave 31 shots away, I think there's still an argument to say that that was still our performance of the season. Or am I just mad? Maybe you could say the Southampton game. The Southampton game, we were appalling up until, I don't know, maybe half time or whatever, when we started getting a bit back into it. So I wonder what the others think. But I still think there was an awful lot to like. And yeah, I'm going to get to him obviously later, but seeing like a potential new superstar, he's getting better now with every game. You know, also some other players like Victor Christensen, that's the best I think I've seen him play for Leicester. He was, again, watching it on the 3x speed, was 3 times faster, but taking that out of the extent, he was actually properly good in what he was doing. So there was a lot to like about many of the performances. Even Connor Cody had a good game. Can't say that too often.
Yeah, well, Josh, the obvious ones in my head, you might disagree, but the obvious ones in my head are Ndidi, Soumare, and El Khannouss. You know, the 3 midfielders there. But who else maybe went under the radar a little bit, do you think, and had a really good game?
Yeah, I'd say I'd say Christensen. I know just touched on him then, but my seat at the ground was like to the left of the penalty box, so I had a great view first off as link up between him, El Khannouss and Soumare. I thought he was fantastic, and his work rate as well. He was, sprinting back towards the end of the game as well, which obviously should be a given. But I thought he put a right shift in yesterday, and I looked at his heat map. He's all over the place. So yeah, I thought Christensen was good. I thought McAteer had a quite underrated game as well. Didn't really set the world alight, but I think in terms of he's more of a system player, but I think he did a great job for the team, and it really allowed us to really get forward at times. You can always rely on him to come back. So I think all in all, everyone had a very good game in my opinion. I thought Buenanotte, yeah, despite he wasn't his best of games, but he was still in the right areas. He was still trying back and picking up the right position. So I think all in all, we had some fantastic performance. But yeah, I think the others ones, just like Locke said, and Diddy, Soumare, El Khannouss, and probably Christensen, I'd argue, were probably the top four. And probably Vardy, actually. I think, obviously he scored the goal, did his job.
Yeah, I mean, Ragsy, mate, I was quite surprised. And this isn't a downer on Ndidi. This isn't me knocking Ndidi. I was surprised that Ndidi got man of the match because El Khannouss, for me, had a faultless performance, a goal, an assist. But does that just show how good Ndidi was as well? Because, I'll throw another thing in here. You can talk about it. Yeah. I thought Ndidi was average in the first half, but the second half, I don't know what Ruud said to him, but it was like Ndidi of 5 years ago.
Yeah, I think you're being quite kind, actually. I thought the first half he kind of looked half-assed when it came to. I think sometimes he did a good job in terms of making the block and the tackle and the interception. Then half the time he was just letting his man go too easily. He was dropping way back in to sort of resorting to. I think these are the things that these sort of bad habits they were picking up from Cooper in terms of sitting in shape. Oh yeah, we'll deal with the danger if it comes into it, if it gets to drastic measures and stuff. Or actually, no, be on the front foot, stick to your sort of natural position, get tight to your man and stuff. Those sort of basics at the highest level. And I think indeed he was slacking a bit. And clearly, Ruud, whatever he said to them at halftime, and JJ included, I think, must have shoved the rod up their asses. And when he came out second half, like he was a man mountain. Indeed, honestly, it was just like he looked back to his best that second half. That second half continues like that. Could be one of our most pivotal players this season if he carries on like that. But yeah, I do agree to an extent because I think overall over the 90, I'd argue Bilal, like just how creative he was, like his tracking back, his work ethic, and just even like I watched an interview from him and he's like, what, 20 years old, but he don't act like it at all. He sounds so mature and just measured and sort of like proactive when it comes to the team. We need to sort of stay humble and then sort of build ourselves. Well, say that to Erling Haaland, maybe he should take a tip or something. But like, when it comes to and just being grounded and measured and that sort of summed up his performance as well. It just seemed professional and seamless, like in terms of his adaptations to the Premier League. So if I were to pick a man of the match, it would have been him. But indeed, he brilliant second half. Soumare, I thought, was excellent. And the fact that we're even debating who should be man of the match is just like positive signs moving forward for us.
Well, I think we've debated it in the past, but for the wrong reason. We've been like, well, they were all shit, so we can't give it anyone. Whereas this time we were saying, well, they were all great. So it's hard to see. If Anil grows out a beard, he could look extremely similar to Ruud van Nistelrooy. Is it just me? There you go, now. There you go, mate. Yeah, there you go. There's a tip for you, mate, with your turtleneck as well. Get that on. Josh, how impressed were you with Bilal? Because again, I think Anil said it. He's got better each game. The first game was rough, and it was a tough game anyway. The Everton one, it was torrential rain. I mean, you could barely see 5 yards in front of you. Obviously, he had the game against Man United, which he scored in the cup, and it was a decent performance. But I mean, he kind of blew himself out of the water, didn't he, with that one yesterday? Because I thought he did deserve man of the match over Ndidi. I thought he was the best player on the whole pitch.
Yeah, by an absolute mile. I think he's going to be very important in this system coming off. It depends how he play. Obviously, he came from the left and kind of drifted inside. But I think even with that, I think his tracking back impressed me the most. Obviously, I think we all kind of knew-ish that he's going to be, good creatively and whatnot. But I think his tracking back and his general work rate just really impressed me. And it kind of set the tone for us. I remember he put a big tackle in, I think it was the first minute or so. Then after that, obviously, we went and got the first goal through Vards. But yeah, I think overall his whole game was fantastic. And obviously, I think he went down with cramp or something towards the end, which tells you everything. But yeah, I think Bilal was just fantastic in all departments. And just like Ragsy said, his interview, he had Vardy's socks on as well. So hopefully he keeps them on for the next few weeks. And few more goals. But I think that first goal will just build him up now. Obviously, you know, he's been a bit of a bit part player so far, but I think that goal will give him a load of confidence and hopefully he can kick on now.
Neil, I think I said in the instant match reaction, I put a comment and I said, Bilal Vardy vibes is giving me Vardy Mahrez vibes. Again, that's what I'm saying about losing, you know, kind of going OTT with things. But his personality, mate. I mean, he seems bang on as well. And when he scored, he was all over the badge, kissing the badge, pointing to the badge. I mean, it's exciting, isn't it? Because some of the signings have got stick, you know, like Oliver Skip, for example, 25 million. We give that stick, but 20 million for Bilal. In a year, 2 years time, we could be looking at that and thinking, "Whew, that was a deal and a half."
It's looking that way, isn't it? I was really excited when we got him because he literally the young player of the year in Belgium. Normally, whoever that is, it's not often that they turn out to be a clunker. There's some really good historical ones there. I don't know if you saw, he did a post-match interview afterwards. He was wearing Jamie Vardy socks.
Yeah,
so he was doing an interview with Vardy, and he goes, "That's the reason why I scored." And he was having like a really good relationship. It's kind of funny because obviously between him and Vardy could actually be his dad, given the age difference, right? But kind of charming to see. I just want to say something though. Interesting stat here. So I was shocked actually that you said indeed he got man of the match. It's like, what were they smoking? Because for me, Bilal was just so good. But I've just had a look at this. So Wilfred Ndidi made 10 tackles in one game alone in that game yesterday. And believe it or not, that is the 15th highest of all time in the Premier League. And that's the most amount of tackles made in a Premier League game this season. And in fact, the only sort of people that have beaten him, you can probably guess who they are, but Wilfred Ndidi himself has done even more than that in the game. And of course, a player called N'Golo Kante had a few games where he also did that. So that's interesting. That's probably why he got given that, because that is insane.
Makelele, is Makelele there?
No, he's not actually.
Is he not? Wow.
There's some crazy. I'll share with you another time. It's interesting that people that are there. Do you know what? Because sometimes if you play for a good team, you don't actually have to make that many challenges, which is the sort of crazy thing there. But yeah, going back to Bilal, that's super exciting. And like, I think he was one of those signings that I think there was a bit of risk to it. Like, we needed him to be good. Like, if you cast your mind back, Daka and Soumare did not do the business the season that they were signed. In fact, even now you could say they haven't. I think we should talk a bit about Soumare though, because he's definitely this season's Vestergaard in terms of the redemption arc. But Bilal already, you could see he's got the talent. But as Josh said, his work rate and his interlapping and like interlinking with Victor Christensen was super exciting. Like, I hate to say it, I don't think I see Mavididi getting into the team too frequently now if those two are playing like that. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. At the end of the day, it's got to be what's good for the team. His ceiling, Bilal, is ridiculous. Let's be honest with you. That's a guy that he should be going to a Champions League club in 2 seasons' time. If we don't make it there ourselves, that's what I'm going for. So he looks brilliant. So really good business. Do you know what? I think he's actually got a higher ceiling even than Buonanotte, which might sound crazy, but honestly, I think he is a different type of player. But what I've seen there, I think he's got a better all-round game and understanding. I think his decision-making is also a bit better. Although I will say that Buonanotte has also got certain things about him that are very hard to coach, and there's a bit of natural talent that's unique to see.
We all get things wrong. But I have never seen so much rubbish than I see, and you see, Ragsy, in the Foss Hub group chat. Now, I want to read some out here. I'm not trying to throw anyone under the bus, but Foss Hub himself, whoever he is, he's like the almighty being that no one's ever seen in person before. He says Victor Christensen Soumare garbage, right? And then I saw another one from Manny saying Bilal anonymous, and I'm like, what is going on? Am I seeing what everybody else is seeing or what? Ragsy also said that Ndidi and JJ had been a shambles. That was the first half you were referring to, and they weren't as good. But Ragsy, I mean, talk to me on Soumare, and they'll just teed you up there. What did you make to him? Because, you know, even during the game, before the game, even like I saw 1 or 2 people after the game kind of slated him still. And I think it's becoming maybe a little bit of an agenda at this point.
Oh yeah, it's definitely an agenda. I think it's quite ironic that the people that are brandishing a lazy narrative on him are just lazy themselves, and it's just I just find that quite funny, to be honest.
Shots fired.
Anyways, but yeah, it's I thought Soumare, he was excellent, to be honest with you, in terms of the way he dictates the tempo. how he's able to retain the ball under pressure, just occupying that pivot to help us build through. And so many of our attacks in terms of how we sparked, especially when it came down the left-hand side. And I think he just helped with VK and Bilal, and then Bilal went on the half-time for Vardy's goal. And just so many times, and it was just seamless, and he progressed with the ball, drove with it forward. I think maybe the reasons, I mean, ultimately he does have to look at himself as well. But I think the reasons as to why he probably hasn't settled initially, well, it was under managers that I don't really think understood what he needed to, how he needs to be positioned and what kind of role he actually is. And then as we're seeing it now, it's becoming a bit more apparent. When he was at Lille, he was partnered with Renato Sanchez in the double pivot. So I think moving forward, that's probably I think the best way to sort of get the best out of him, especially when you got someone as a destroyer like Ndidi alongside him as well, and then he could be the one to sort of progress with the ball forward. But yeah, just I've noticed it for a few games this season. I was surprised to an extent that he got loaned out by Enzo to Sevilla, but maybe that actually did him a bit of good, to be honest. And yeah, let's long may it continue. At the end of the day, I think Winks, Skip, they've got a really hard task of getting themselves back in at the minute. I think maybe you try and gear towards a Winks if we know we're going to dominate the ball, but I don't really see a game, especially over this winter period, when that's going to happen. So at the minute, I think those two are the mainstays.
On Friday, I'll be doing a team predict show, and we'll talk about what happens with Winks. I don't think he gets in the team now. I don't think you can change it, basically, off a winning side. Manny is here. Manny, we have touched on VK. We've also touched on how you said Bilal El Khannouss was anonymous. So there we go. I will say, though, Anil, I don't know if you saw my message earlier, but Manny also came for you and Luke for saying... I think at half-time, you both said Ndidi should probably come out for Skip, and Manny was not happy with that. But again, we've already said, Anil, he had a much better second half, Ndidi did, than the first half.
Well, I want to defend that a little bit. He was good there, but what we were saying is he was still winning the ball and clearing it well in that first half. But what he wasn't doing is he was giving the ball away a lot. And our point was it was wave after wave of West Ham pressure. And at the end of the day, we still conceded 31 shots. So I think that's something he needs to work on as well between the team. Because otherwise there's a reason why you're having to make 10 tackles a game, because the ball keeps coming back, right? So I'm saying the reason why Cloud Makalele's not in the top 10 is that he probably only had to make 5 tackles a game, but they were important tackles to make. But for sure, he had a monstrous second half and was great in the match.
Manny did say he was on 5 hours, less than 5 hours sleep or something. 5 hours sleep over 3 days. So that's why he thought Bilal was anonymous. Josh, I want to come to you, mate, and I want to touch on just a couple. I don't want to do too much of this, but a couple of the negatives. And there is a comment here. I don't even know if it is a negative, really, but Richard asks, what do you guys think of Bobby De Cordova-Reid? For someone who has played in the Championship and Premier League for a number of years, he looks weak and he frustrates me. Obviously, he had the ball in the back of the net. He was fortunate, that's for sure, because it was just a rebound. It was offside, but what did you make to his little cameo?
I thought he was fine, to be fair. That's kind of what I expected, really, from the whole season. I wasn't expecting him, like Jordan Ayew as well, to really come on and start. I'm expecting them to come on as a sub to try and see the game out. That comes into Van Nistelrooy's proactive subs once again. I think we're touching it already. I think he got it all spot on. But yeah, I think he did well. I think he's reliable. He's not the type of player to take on 3 or 4 players, is he, and whip it into the top corner. But he's balanced. He comes back on the defence. You can trust him to track back. I think it's a smart player to have in your team. And I think most of us said it when he first joined. It was a fairly good signing because he's got that Premier League experience, and if he can show that by coming on towards the end of the games and maybe starting the odd game. Yeah, I think it's fine. I don't think he's had the best of starts at Leicester, but granted, he hasn't really played that many games. Obviously, he had that bit at the start when he played. But I think in terms of yesterday, I thought he did his job and helped to see the game out. So no complaints from me.
Ragsy, have you got any same response to Manny? Because you're fully aware, as I am, mate, that Manny's got an unhealthy obsession with Wilfred Ndidi. Manny also thinks Wilfred Ndidi is worth £50 million currently, and he gets in every side in the top 6 or something like that. But all jokes aside, he does make a point. It's fine to have the better distribution, but pointless if you don't win it back in the first place. What do you make to that?
I agree with that. I think, listen, when you look at some of the elite players in the game, they've got to do the fundamentals and stamp their authority to go and win the ball back and go and do the dirty work, so that then they earn the right to then go and dictate the tempo when we are in possession. And I think it was after the Forest game, and Gary Neville actually summed it up perfectly with Harry Winks. Like, when he's on the ball and stuff, like, it's one of the best to do it. It's one, like, you know, with England's sort of like most creative sort of like link up play, and how he can see passes and sort of dictate a tempo and stuff. But the difference between him and the top players is, like, I don't think he's willing to put in the dirty work to be able to go and like make us sort of like dictate the tempo. You need to earn the right to do that. And I think I did have a bit of doubts last season, probably when we initially signed him, but then he was flawless last season, in my opinion. So, but that was in the Championship. Now you got to make the step up to the Premier League. So I think at the end of the day, like, especially when we're down where we are, I just think like, you do need the physical elements in the game to sort of reestablish some sort of control there. Because, like, you know, and at the minute, yeah, I just don't really see a pointer for him to try and get in this team at the minute. Not for the short term, anyway.
The last thing I want to touch on this game, Anil, because I've got an interesting question for you all at the end. And the question I want to ask you is, and I think I did ask you last night, but I'll ask you again. How much of that performance, that result, do you think was down to what Ruud did with the players in 3 days? And how much of it was down to the cliche new manager bounce? Because I've already seen some negative people online saying, "Oh, well, yeah, that wasn't Ruud." So somebody was in my DM saying, "How? There's no evidence to suggest Cooper wouldn't have won that." And I'm like, "Oh my god!" But
what is wrong
what
with some people? God almighty. I mean, where was the new manager bounce against Brentford? It lasted all of 24 minutes. Then we shipped 4, and they had the new manager waiting there to impress. So that wasn't the case. No, we'll cover it in tomorrow's show logs. Ruud did numerous things to set up the team structurally to succeed, and it worked. And the most succinct way I can put it is he decided to make a brave call. He started the match with Casey McAteer and Bilal El Khannouss on the wings, and he did that to give protection to the fullbacks, and we won the game 3-1, and they scored the goal in the 91st minute. So it worked. And to start Casey McAteer, how many people would have put him in your starting lineup and Bilal on the other side?
Not me.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, Ragsy knows, not me, because I slated him before
exactly.
the game. Josh, is it just, I mean, is it just poppycock? Is it just a load of crap? What I just said, basically, that somebody was telling me it wasn't down to the manager. You know, what do you think to it all?
Yeah, sort of bullshit, really. It's probably Cooper fans, isn't it, or Forest fans, or whatever. But
it was actually a Leicester fan, which is the most crazy thing.
Yeah. Well, we can have an idea of what they're like. But no, I think obviously there obviously is going to be a little bit of a manager bounce, but just like Anil said, we played Brentford. The new manager's literally watching the team, so there was nothing from that, was there? But no, look, I think Ruud, you know, it's clear to see what he's done with the team. He's changed it. Obviously, the players are going to be wanting to play for him and try and get their place in the squad for the next few weeks. But no, I think with Ruud, just like Anil said, in terms of the selection, which was obviously brave, the structure, you could kind of see the way he wants to play. And that's the most positive thing for me. He's had limited time with the players, and you can already kind of see the way he wants to play. So it's only going to get better with the more weeks we have. We saw it with Maresca at the start of his season. He was a bit shaky towards the start, and then obviously we picked up massively and went on that big run. So I don't think we're going to go on a big run by any stretch, but I think the performances are only going to improve from here.
Yeah, Ragsy, same to you, mate. Same question.
Yeah, probably following on from what Josh says. It's just like, with people who sort of like, I'm not really taking opinions from people who don't really watch the game, and it's just like, I know, like, and people, like, opinions are like arseholes and everyone's got them, but you're not exactly going to tap into every single one, are you? So it's just like, it's just pointless. It's a waste of time. And just move forward. And like, you actually watch the game, you're already seeing a pressing structure. You're already seeing like tactical tweaks where Casey shifted out to the left. And Neil will probably go through it tomorrow as well in terms of numerous things that he did. But like, that's just what we're asking for. We're asking for something to get behind. Like, you know, and that would have been the same with Cooper. Like, you look at the second half against Tottenham, and we actually had a good sort of like run at it at Tottenham and could have won. And, you know, then you're like, oh, okay, like, let's build from this sort of second half performance and let's move. But, you know, you're not going to sort of follow him willingly with blind faith and stuff. If he asks you to jump off a cliff, you're going to say, well, no, I'm not going to do that. Like, you need to back a plan that's actually going to work, that you actually see some sort of sense to it. And already, after a day of training and one game, we're already seeing so much more than what we did from the start of the season. So let's persist. There will be challenges, of course. It won't be perfect, but it's a whole building process and stuff. Let's just start and build from there on in.
Just quickly, Neil, what do you make to what Costa said here? Because I did think this, so in the interview before the match, I'm not saying that bloody Lopetegui was listening or anything like that. Obviously, that wouldn't be the case, but he was very open. He basically said what the game plan would be before the match, on live on Amazon. What did you make to that?
Personally, I really like that. I think it's that the opposition manager can't make changes to that. Well, 5 minutes before the game, they'll know even just by looking at the team lineup what's going to go on. You can generally guess what's going to happen, and this is something really left field. But I was going to say, I think that's a big difference actually in the way that the press is handled on the continent compared to here in England. Because to be honest with you, let's be honest with you, it's just the same old drivel that they ask people both before and after the matches. If you look at press conferences abroad, actually take a look at Spain and stuff as well. It's really interesting. When they ask the manager, the actual press will ask them actual good tactical questions. So they'll be like, oh, hey, manager of Sevilla, you've brought in Boubakary Soumare on loan from Leicester, and you're using him as a CDM that's building up the play. But we noticed that he was getting caught on the ball against Atletico. What are you going to do about that? Because our press, like, not been funny thing, because some of them even come on our channel to make videos, but they don't even know that's going on, to be totally honest with you, yet alone ask the questions. The Dutch, what I like about them is they've obviously got a football philosophy that's ingrained in them from a very early age. That's why these academies, what's the population of Holland? A couple of million, right? Yet they crank out these top teams time and time again. Look at the PSV academies, the Ajax academies, the Feyenoord academies, because they drilled this stuff into the players from an early age. And to be honest with you, I'm not surprised. You see Bilal after the game, he goes, yeah, now we know we felt way more like a team in the last 2 days. Because what he's basically saying is the previous guy was a PE teacher, and this guy's turned up and explained to us in minute 2 what we've been doing wrong and how he's going to fix it. And everyone's like, oh, finally, we got someone that isn't an idiot and actually has some understanding of the game. So I don't want to have a go at Costa, because I know what he's saying. He's saying, like, maybe you should play your cards close to your chest. But I'm saying, I think a top manager, they're going to be open like that because they actually want to improve. It's almost like rather than hide. Do it might be a bit of a strange analogy, but if you play like video games, sometimes people do that as well. Like they keep their secret stuff to themselves. But actually, the best way is tell your friend what you're doing, because then they're going to come up with the counter to your tactic, and then you've got to make your tactic even stronger. And it's like you might give away something in the short term because you couldn't use your busted tactic, but in the long term you'll become super duper because you advance to a far level above. So I guess it's like a philosophy thing. Yeah, that's fair enough, right? I do have to say that Dutch do have that. That is 100% true. But I personally quite like it. And I think, look, who's one of the best managers of all time is Johan Cruyff, right? His impact on the game. Rinus Michels before him as well. So I sort of like that aspect. But yeah, I think that's fair enough from Conscious. There's an element to that with Dutch managers.
I mean, if anybody here or anybody watching plays a bit of poker, it's like Steve Cooper. Ruud van Nistelrooy reveals his pocket aces, but Steve Cooper kept quiet that he had a 2-7 offsuit, basically. He had fucking nothing and he kept it quiet. At least Ruud van Nistelrooy's got something and he's saying, look what I've got. So there we go. Right, coming towards the end. Don't go anywhere yet, people, whoever's watching, because I want to ask you this. There's been a lot of talk over the last few weeks and also today. 2 players might be available on loan in the January transfer window: Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall and Harvey Barnes. First question, would you take them? Second question, do you think either of them would actually come on loan to Leicester City? And Neil, mate, talk to me.
I think they would both come back, to be honest with you. I mean, they're pretty good. The thing with Barnes is you've got now Mavididi and you've got Bilal El Khannouss, so I don't think you would need him as much. Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall, again, you could say a similar thing. Like, do you need it with Buonanotte and Bilal doing really well? But I mean, he was our star man last season. It could do with like additional just cover, to be honest with you, in the squad. You're shaking your head, but I would, to be honest with you. I think,
I was shaking my head at you saying about, do we need Barnes? I mean, I would take Barnes all day long over Mavididi personally, but
given current form, I suppose. Well, I guess what I'm saying is, though, is that, like, if you're only going to have him for 6 months, he's going to play Do you know what I'm thinking? I'm not even thinking Mavididi right now. I'm thinking Bilal El Khannouss, but I suppose you do need cover for him. Like, is he gonna? I think the thing is like what we've done wrong with Edouard. How many minutes has he played for us? 6 in the Premier League. It's like that's a waste of a loan signing. You should get someone who's actually going to make a massive difference. And to be honest with you, I feel like we need either a centre back or the right back. To be honest with you, but maybe we're going to buy that player. To be fair, but I would take him. Yeah.
Sports Josh, mate. Clibo says yes, he would take them, and no, he doesn't think they would come. What do you think, mate?
I think Dewsbury Hall would come. I don't think Barnes would come personally, but I'd take both of them 100%. I think, they've been. Dewsbury's been struggling at Chelsea. I think he'd come back in and do well for us. Really, obviously, and it was just said, the players have got in them type of areas, obviously good for us. But I think there's no harm in having someone like Dewsbury Hall in and around the squad. Barnes as well. I agree with you, Locks. I think I'd have him over Steffi 100%. I think at Newcastle he's struggled a little bit in terms of injuries, but when he's on it. So I think I'd take Barnes every day of the week.
The reason I'm laughing to myself again is because we're like, oh well, do we need them after one win? You know what I mean? It's like 6 weeks ago we'd have said, please come back, Ragsy, mate, what do you think to both of them?
Okay. Would I want? I'd love Kiernan. Just like, but do we realistically need him? Because just considering like we have a lot of depth in midfield as it is, then no. Maybe if it comes to at the end of the season and it would be like a season-long loan, and then you really sort of bed in the ideas, then possibly Harvey. I don't know. I think it's just look. I think he's a really talented player, of course. Let me just sort of say that first and foremost. But like, I don't think he's an influential player. I don't think he has been, even at the highest level, even when we're sort of building up and stuff. He scores goals, of course. But I don't really like the sort of bashing of Mavididi at the minute. I think there's more to him like that he can adapt at this level. And I just think like there's other positions personally to go ahead and prioritize. I think it's more a right winger that we need rather than a left winger. So,
Ragsy, would you rather Mavididi or Harvey Barnes right now, mate?
Mavididi, if I'm being honest. Right. So, because like I just think you get a reliable player. That's the thing. It's like because with Harvey,
is he reliable? I don't think Mavididi's reliable. How?
Yeah. You got to fit. Cooper tax. Come on, let's just move. Like
he can't run. He can't run. Ragsy, he can't run. He can't run. He can't run.
Well, Harvey, if he can't beat his fullback in his first 5 minutes, then he's done for. We may as well be playing with 10 men. You don't track back. You don't like work hard. It's literally all the sort of surface. He acts like Salah, but he doesn't have the right to sort of act like a Mo Salah. Like
he was our top goal scorer in the relegation.
Yes, and we got relegated. And like,
he was a top scorer. He was a top scorer.
He had no influence on us, like staying up at all. He wasn't like
no one did
part of it. Like he was here and there. He's inconsistent, and I just don't think like he's a priority for me. If we needed a left winger, then by all means. But
I think Ragsy's point about getting a right winger instead. Come on, you got to say that's totally fair.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I agree. Yeah. My thing is I can't believe I'm hearing Mavididi over Barnes over him.
Yeah. I think with Ruud now in, I think the way that look at his sort of demeanor and how he can copy from Sir Alex as well. Like he will look at Steffi and go, there's so much talent there. There's so much and especially from last season, he was the reason, one of the main reasons we actually got promoted in the first place. So he deserves his flowers there, and he will know clearly something's it's just a drop in confidence, and it could be a personal issue, lack of fitness. We don't know. We don't know at the end of the day, but I know he will be able to work with him. I know that he'll get a tune out of him, and sooner or later you'll get starts and you get consistent 90-minute performances and stuff.
Maxi Marathon. I'm joking.
Bring him back.
I mean, this is a thing. Look, this is a Leicester City fan chat. We're all allowed our opinions. I find it crazy. I find it crazy to hear Mavididi over Barnes. I can't lie, but fair enough, mate. If that's what you believe, that's what you believe. That's fine, mate. Some people will agree with you.
Try not to going back in for your exes and stuff. It's not a good habit. yourself in. I mean, with Kieran,
Yeah. After we've been talking about Enzo all season. Right, that is it. Thank you to the lads. Ragsy, mate, what's coming up on Foss Hub anytime soon? And
so yeah, I'll be away this weekend. I'm actually in Belgium over the weekend, so I'm going to be missing the Brighton game. So it's just, but there'll be post-match analysis like in the following week as well. So, but yeah, heading to Belgium and trying to look for a new defender in it. So there we go.
Hey, there we go. Josh, sports. Have you got like a vlog or anything coming out, or is it already out? Or
yeah, I stayed up till 3 AM last night, so appreciate if you could go and watch it. That the vlog from last night, and another vlog for Sunday at Brighton, and then Newcastle staying over the weekend. So that should be a fun one.
There we go. There's 73 people here at the moment. Once this live ends, head over to Sports. Watch the vlog if you haven't already. Most of you probably have already watched it. Anil, mate, you mentioned the analysis. I'm really looking forward to that, by the way. I'm really looking forward
tomorrow at 7. I mean, come join it, because like, I'm not saying that I've identified everything he's done. You might well have noticed some stuff that I didn't. So I'd love to hear it from you. It's part of the fun, right? As Ragsy said, we can actually talk about tactics. We actually can talk about someone who seems to know what he's doing. And you know, I mean this in the best possible way. You do not want it that I can tell you things that Steve Cooper can't, right? I want to, like you guys, I want to look back at why did he make that change and putting Casey Macasier on the left. I think I've got an idea, but let's discuss that all tomorrow. So, tune in for that. I think it should be super interesting. And let's see where we go from here as well, right? Because there were a lot of things to like, but even Ruud himself said there are a lot of things to fix. So what are those things and how are we going to fix them together? Let's talk about it tomorrow at 7.
7 p.m. tomorrow. We'll see you there. Costa short and sweet. Fox's Den is always short and sweet. Just a little compact show to talk everything Leicester. Right. Thanks to the lads. Thanks to everybody who's watched. Much appreciated. Hit the like button, hit subscribe, and remember, go check out Sports for YouTube for the vlog now. See you in a bit, guys. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.